G'day folks, welcome back to this report for Atlantic War, the full campaign. This is the end of the 12th of June and I'm starting here because this is where the biggest gain has been for the Allies. Breakthrough along the beach. They've captured St. Vast La Hougue along the coast there. Basically what happened is using this clear terrain, keep in mind the vast bulk of the terrain throughout here is bocage, which is 2 columns to the left more difficult than the clear terrain. So the Allies are focusing, well, I won't say focusing, but getting their best results in the clear terrain. You may recall, I think at the end of the last day, the 11th of June, the front lines were about here. And there was a decent line in front of Montebourg, and just a small breakthrough in this clear terrain here. Not a small breakthrough, forcing the German lines back, forcing them to stretch their lines. Over the course of basically 3 turns throughout this day, the Germans have had to keep pulling back and then pulling back and retreat because of combat, reform their line, fight again, until the point around here where they just could not, as the Allies began to come around this coast here, they just could not hold the line, and the line effectively broke. They've tried to pull back here, leaving a lot of this terrain out on the left free for the Allies to move through. There is 1 German battalion down here caught behind the line. They couldn't get out in time. But the rest of the 4th Division and the 2nd Armoured moving through. And the problems for the Germans is that they keep stretching their lines trying to move south, but as you can see, it's just stretching their lines very thin. A lot of the 4th and 2nd Armoured just can't keep up with this advance to the south, nor can the Germans, certainly trying to defend their line. So around here, down in the north, it is very stretched thin. This is as far as they can stretch their lines without leaving any gaps, pretty much. So Montebourg now left very thinly defended, and again, there's still a lot of 4th and 2nd Armoured units in this area who could then attack that. You may recall the 90th Division came on. The 9th Division are now on the board as reinforcements. They've shifted into this area around here. This is 82nd. Now, I will point out before I sort of come around further, it was a light weather turn, so the Allies only received half their air allocation. Burst through the vast bulk of that on the very first AM turn. A lot of attacks along here, a lot of horrific failures. A lot of these 4th Division units in particular were completely demoralised. This is a line of demoralised American units, but they just needed that one success down the coast. So that's one of the reasons why it's gone down the coast, because that's where they had that success. But everything else here was a demoralisation result, which then takes them 2 turns to recover. And of course, then had the night turn. 82nd had marginally more success. And again, it doesn't take much success here to force the Germans to have to pull back their lines and sort of recover. They've also shifted their lines around to the left. So they've got here some elements of a mix of 243rd Division, 275th, and 266 as they're kind of shifting around and then kind of trying to close those gaps, pull back, of course, as well. Shifting around again, we did have some more German reinforcements coming. They were rushing up through La Haye du Puits, but we had 90th Division coming into this area as reinforcements. So they kind of stopped here to hold the line. And then the 9th Division arrived, and they've also rather slowly. That's some nice. It's 90th Artillery. That's the 9th Division here. They're now in the lines, I believe. Yeah, 9th. So 9th Division are coming down this road between 90th and the 101st Airborne. 101st Airborne has been pretty quiet. They haven't shifted much at all. Just a little bit of left and right. That's to make space, which sort of concentrates Allied forces. It creates some problems as increasingly as the Germans are kind of shifting around. You've got almost 2 to 1 in this area, so I wouldn't be surprised if the 101st maybe launch an attack. They didn't have supplies this turn, but maybe in the future. 29th and the 2nd in this area. This is the 2nd Division linking up the 29th around here. They're also very quiet. 1st Division out on sort of their left, the right of the image here. Again, all very quiet out here, just lacking the superiority. But now we have brought out the 3rd Canadian Division. They're occupying this position around here. And I think with their arrival, we may be able to do something in this area. These are some very tough 17th Panzer Grenadier battalions, mechanized infantry, really good anti-armor, anti-tank, high strength values, but with all the artillery we have, and if it's a concentrated effort, maybe something can happen. We kind of have another isolated German unit here. We've got 50th, 51st, shifting around to as we get right to the edge of the board here, we've got the 3rd Division and the 6th Airborne. So you can see how they kind of stretch their lines out. There was this massive concentration of Allied units in this area. You might notice as well that this line has barely moved. Another series of bad Allied attacks. They have just managed to secure this crossing over the Orne River, but haven't been able to get much further. And this concentration of 12th Panzer, 1st SS, a mix of German units in this area is making this line too formidable to do anything with. Now that they're kind of mostly out of the clear terrain, they're in wooded terrain and bocage, it's very, very, very difficult. A lot of German artillery behind the line as well, adding support to that. So, yeah, that gives you a sense of all these units had supply support throughout this turn, but their initial sort of attacks to push across that bridge were pretty quiet. There was no supply along here, and then another concentration of supply around the 82nd and the 4th and 2nd Armoured with that push down the coast. So, yeah, it's. I mean, the story thus far has been Allied advances through clear terrain and a really tough grind through bocage. It is tough going, pushing through that bocage. A lot of failures, a lot of Allied demoralisation, and when they become demoralised, they spend the whole day recovering. So you become demoralised in the AM turn. You've got to recover to disordered in the midday turn, and then remove that disorder during the PM turn, and then it's night where they can't attack. So it takes them out for the whole day. So one bad attack, and there was a lot, like I said, a line of demoralised results, and they're gone. But as I said, it just needs that one little push and a stretching of the German lines. And yeah, now that we've got the 90th and the 9th, there are no German reinforcements arriving over the next 24 hours. So another great opportunity, if I can roll well for supply and roll well for air support, next day could be critical for the Allies. There's potential for a number of key kind of pushes, certainly out around Cotentin Peninsula, this whole area here, but also, I mean, yes, the Germans have some decent defences around here, but the 90th and the 9th are fresh, of a lot of artillery almost ready. 101st is pretty much at full strength after taking replacements. And then, yeah, they've got this line of 29th and 1st and 2nd who could also kind of help out. So, yeah, I feel like Allies have these options. They're just crossing their fingers and hoping for a good weather roll. It is so critical. Storms or heavy overcast and the lack of that air support just shuts them down for the day. It doesn't shut them down, but it shuts down a lot of their activity. I'll say that much. So again, this is the end of the 12th of June, and I'll report back soon.